Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. I'm sure you have been working 18-hour days, and so we appreciate you being here. And obviously, we are all concerned about things that we can do to reform our system as well as making improvements right now. And so I wondered if I could just ask you several questions, part of which are about about the future. One of them is that the Coast Guard makes sure that vessels and drill rigs and undersea drill systems are approved by a third-party independent agency, in this case, the American Bureau of Shipping. Wouldn't it be smart to have an independent engineering expert provide the same kind of classification or certification for the drilling systems?
I'm going to have the Assistant Secretary for Land and Minerals, Wilma Lewis, who is also a former prosecutor for the District of Columbia, U.S. Attorney, and Inspector General for the Department.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Senator Cantwell. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary and Senator Cantwell. I think one of the things that the Secretary has mentioned during the course of his testimony today is the importance of making sure that as we move forward, we learn the lessons of this very tragic incident. And that's one of the important parts or pieces of what we expect to be doing and what is ongoing at this point, in fact. As a result of investigations that are being taken, as a result of our own reviews, consultations with experts, consultations with individuals from industry as well as outside of industry, and our own framing of or screen through which we'll put all of that information, we will be looking very hard at issues of the nature that you have just raised. That is to say, what are the current regulations, oversight, management, should they be improved? And to the extent that a third-party reviewer, which sounds like a very credible and good and legitimate suggestion, should be included in the review of equipment or otherwise, that's the kind of thing that we will be examining. I think that we really have to make sure that this tragedy, at the end of the day, we learn from it and we impose various procedures, processes, as we go forward to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
I thank you. I thank you for that answer, but I think part of the issue is that, well, I'm definitely going to be drafting legislation in this regard because I think it's clear that things as critical as blowout preventers that don't have third-party validators basically saying that they do work is kind of missing the system. Why basically say that, you know, you approve the ship and you approve some of the drill system, but not the undersea drill part, and now here we are without, you know, we have industry association hearings, all of these things, basically with the evidence that the blowout preventers weren't as fail-safe as people thought. I have a second question. Mr. Secretary, you testified that you ordered immediate inspection of deepwater oil and gas operations in the Gulf. Does that include the Atlantis?
The Senator Cantwell, there is currently an investigation underway with respect to the Atlantis. And if I may, with respect to your first question, I think what you will see, the President has directed us, been very clear and resolute in his direction to us to develop a set of recommendations on the safety issues and the systems. And we had already have brought in the National Academy of Engineering, which is essentially at an equal par with the National Academy of Sciences, to provide us this kind of input. So you're on the right track.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do you know, my colleague brought up this, well, he brought up the whole NOAA advice to MMS, and here is a letter from September of 2009, which talks specifically about the extensive science and management. And basically, it was talking about the risk of impacts in the draft proposed Outer Continental Shelf oil and gas leasing program. So they basically were showing their concerns and identifying problems. Do you know if MMS responded to that letter? Or can we get a copy of it if MMS, can we just get an answer one way or another whether MMS did respond to it, and can we get a copy of it?
We will get you that response, Senator Cantwell. Let me just say a comment about the input that we did receive from lots of different sources. I think there were close to 500,000 comments that were made as we move forward with this very extended 180-day comment period, and then beyond, taking a very thoughtful view of what we were going to do. It was precisely because of concerns related to the Arctic area in the Beaufort and in the Chukchi Seas that we ended up concluding that we would cancel 5 proposed lease sales, 2 in the Beaufort, 2 in the Chukchi, and 1 in Bristol Bay. In the case of Bristol Bay, it's because of the ecological values that are there. In the case of the Chukchi and the Beaufort, as Senator Murkowski and Senator Begich were aware of and worked with us on this, there are concerns about oil spill response capability and other issues. And so that's why we landed at the place that we did with respect to the 5-year plan that we announced at the end of March.
And one last question, just really quickly. I know my colleague asked you in general, but why can't we get an answer to the amount of oil that basically is flowing into the ocean? I mean, can't we get that critical data from BP? The Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute have extensive expertise in seafloor vents and offered their services to BP, but they've declined. So is BP blocking this information?
The answer to that is no, Senator Cantwell. The 5,000 barrels per day is what the estimate is, but it is difficult to get to a quantum with a complete certainty at this point in time because of the subsea conditions where the leaks are occurring. I will say that Dr. Marcia McNutt, who is probably one of the best scientists in the United States of America and the director of the U.S. Geological Survey, is working with a team of scientists to come up with our own independent conclusion relative to what the numbers are. We need to know what those flow numbers are for a variety of reasons, including issues relating to natural resource damages and a whole host of other things. So we will have our own independent number.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.